Thank you, Chairman Ferguson. And I'll echo just all I've seen as I've entered into this committee. It's been 3 incredible months. We work on the most important issues. Thank you for being here to talk substantively about these. All I've seen from my leadership on this committee is a sincere intent to address Social Security in the best way for our populations. And to the ranking member, as you've graciously done some research to find out all of us what we are, it only confirms what I've been telling people. Utah is the youngest state in the nation, and I love representing that group of people. And it kind of goes into my next question when I talk about fertility rates. So please, no more jokes about Utah at this point on the fertility rate. But we've got an issue in 2007. Little Director Swagel, as the fertility rate drops after 2007-ish time frame, can you share with us how that impacts the sustainability of Social Security given the financing of the structure?
No, thank you. And it's a key challenge for the system is the declining fertility rate because it affects the ratio of people paying into the system against the people drawing benefits. And we've seen that after the financial crisis of 2008, the fertility rate dropped and did not rise. And in the intervening time, the fertility rate has stayed low. Now, part of that is a social good. There's fewer teens having babies. So it's a social good, it's a challenge for the system, and that's, we're talking about the dollars. But, I don't want to say that's a bad thing. In our projections, we have fertility rising somewhat because our view is that the decline in fertility that we saw again during the pandemic will be somewhat reversed as births and substance are delayed, that women will have births in their late 20s and into their 30s rather than as teens or early 20s. So there's some of that, but there's still a financial system because of the declining fertility.
Absolutely, and again, it gets to the ratios, Mr. Houston, that you've discussed with respect to the beneficiary ratio from worker to beneficiary. Would you add anything to that assessment?
I think at the time, in 1935, the worker to benefit ratio was much higher than it is today, obviously, and that's been decreasing over time. So that's leading to an imbalance in the number of workers paying into the system versus the number of beneficiaries, which are people collecting from the system. The further that moves into imbalance, puts additional pressure on the program.
Thank you. Mr. Goss, some recent statistics have highlighted that the insolvency, Social Security Trust Fund insolvency, could even come a year earlier, and we're seeing a lot of that due to the reduced levels of GDP, labor productivity over that production period. Can you describe why we now expect lower labor productivity levels and how declining workforce participation may sort of exacerbate this issue?
Yeah, thank you very much. The trustees did do a reassessment for this year's trustees report, suggesting the possibility that the level of labor productivity and GDP might be lower in 2023 because of an economic slowdown and remain lower through the balance of the 75-year projection period. There's a little bit of good news, though, and that is that, and by the way, CBO actually projected an even lower growth rate in aggregate GDP in 2023 than the trustees did, both below 1%. The good news is that most private forecasters are now projecting, based on experience late in 22 and so far in 2023, that we will be exceeding that and doing better. So it's really not clear. There's a lot of uncertainty in these areas. If I might just mention also in terms of the fertility rate in a given year has really no impact on the financing of the Social Security Trust Fund or its benefits for about 20 years out. That's how long it takes for births to move into the population. So the other thing, too, just to be very clear on birth rates is since 2008, we have had a low birth rate. Of course, after 1965, we had a low birth rate until 1990, when the birth rate came back up above 2.0 from 1990 through 2008. There's something demographers refer to as tempo effect, women deciding to have children at higher ages. That's still going on to a degree. Now, the trustees project that we will have an increase back to about 2.0. Birth expectation surveys of what women say they want to have and plan to have is still over 2. So, and our projection is for that, however, not to be realized until 2056, a long time out.
And again, Utah is probably doing their part there. But you actually emphasized the point. if it takes 20 years to make that into consideration, labor participation is so much more important. And that is such a key aspect to making sure that we do this. We've got to come up with innovative solutions, making sure we get a positive, productive workforce back into our economy. And I'll just close with, on sort of the bipartisan effort to really consider how we act. We have got to come and work on together and do something as we approach this calamity up ahead. And I know that our team is committed to that. So thank you, and my time has expired.